My name is Matthew Myers, and I want to tell you a story that turned my life upside down. Until recently, everything was going smoothly. Beloved wife Sophia, two wonderful children, an office job, and a cozy suburban home. Nothing foreshadowed trouble. At 38, I felt full of strength and energy. Every morning began with a jog and strong coffee. On weekends, Sophia and I would go to the park or out of town, enjoying each other's company. Life flowed measured and calm. But one day, everything changed. During a routine medical checkup, the doctor discovered a serious illness. When he voiced the diagnosis and prognosis, the world seemed to collapse. "Mr. Myers, I'm afraid I have some bad news for you." The doctor looked at me with sympathy over his glasses. "You have no more than 2 years left. I'm very sorry." I listened to him in disbelief. How is this possible? I've always led a healthy lifestyle. My heart was pounding wildly, my mouth dry. It seemed like just a bad dream. At dinner that evening, I told Sophia about the diagnosis. She froze, not bringing the fork to her mouth. Horror swam in her eyes. "This can't be. Surely the doctors were wrong. We'll get more tests done. Find the best specialists." Her voice trembled. I shook my head. Alas, the diagnosis was unequivocal. Tears welled up in my eyes as I imagined I would soon be leaving my family forever. "How will they cope without me?" Sophia hugged me tightly, sobbing. We sat there lost and crushed, not knowing what the coming day would bring. We had to somehow accept this terrible reality and learn to live on. But how? A year has passed since that fateful day. Half of my allotted time has expired, and I increasingly found myself thinking, how to spend the remaining time. I didn't want to waste it on mundane things and routine. I pondered my life, unfulfilled dreams, and missed opportunities. Could it be that I would leave without experiencing anything but a measured existence? In the depths of my soul, there was always something vicious, a mad desire to do something shocking. But before, I drove these thoughts away. Now, on the verge of death, fear and conventions retreated. After all, I had nothing more to lose. And at some point, an absolutely wild idea came to mind: to seduce my own mother-in-law, Dorothy. At first, I brushed off this thought, considering it the height of madness. But the more I thought about it, the stronger the forbidden desire burned. Dorothy was an attractive woman who retained her charm and allure despite her age. Her languid looks and tight-fitting dresses excited the imagination. Of course, it was immoral in relation to Sophia, but in the face of imminent death, is there room for morality? I longed to experience something exciting, extraordinary, even if I had to keep it a secret. After much hesitation, the decision was made. I realized that I was playing with fire and risking destroying my family. But temptation, multiplied by the thrill of the moment, proved stronger than the arguments of reason. The next day, I called Dorothy and invited her to lunch under the pretext of discussing business. She readily agreed, not even suspecting my true intentions. My heart beat anticipation. The game had begun. Lunch with Dorothy was the first step in the realization of my audacious plan. We chatted casually, laughed at jokes, discussed the latest news. Furtively, I examined my mother-in-law, noting the smooth curves of her figure and her alluring smile. Mentally undressing her, imagining under the modest dress, thin lace underwear. Soon I began a cautious flirtation. Light compliments, double entendres, accidental touches. Dorothy accepted the signs of attention favorably, responding with a sly look and playful remarks. It seemed my interest flattered her. Gradually, our conversations became more and more frank. I complained about the lack of passion in my marriage, hinted at unsatisfied desires. Dorothy listened with understanding, sharing similar experiences. It turned out that in her relationship with Richard, my father-in-law, there was also a chill. Richard has completely forgotten that I am a woman. For him, I'm just a convenient option to spend evenings by the TV. She sighed once, stirring her coffee. But I so want to feel desired, special. Her gaze burned with an inviting fire, making it clear. The invitation was accepted. I felt arousal, imagining how I would take possession of this not young but attractive body. The flirting grew bolder. Dorothy would accidentally touch my hand, cast languid glances from under her lashes. Now it was she who was playing a dangerous game, provoking and teasing. The air between us sparkled with barely restrained tension. One day after lunch, we lingered by Dorothy's car. I leaned in to kiss her on the cheek goodbye, but she suddenly turned her head and our lips met. This was no longer a friendly kiss between relatives. "Thank you for a pleasant evening, Matthew," she whispered, smiling promisingly. "I hope there will be a continuation." There was no doubt left. Dorothy was ready to move on to more decisive actions. It only remained to choose a suitable moment and bring the plan to its logical conclusion. Our secret meetings with Dorothy became more frequent. Now, every time we were alone, we crossed all boundaries. Passionate kisses, greedy caresses, torn clothes. We both couldn't wait to fully enjoy the intimacy. The inner voice said that I was doing something terrible, betraying Sophia, destroying the family. But the hot body refused to listen to the arguments of reason. Dorothy, so desirable and vicious, overshadowed everything in the world. "Matthew, Richard is gone for a week," she whispered conspiratorially into the phone one evening. "We'll have time to really be together." I immediately understood what she was hinting at, and instead of feeling shame or guilt, I felt anticipation and excitement. The next day I went to Dorothy's, telling Sophia that I would be working late. My mother-in-law met me at the threshold in a silk robe. We didn't even make it to the bedroom. Passion overtook us right in the hallway. From that moment on, our dates became regular. We met wherever we could, in hotels, in the car, in nature, making love greedily, selflessly, not thinking about the consequences. At some point, it began to seem to me that the connection with Dorothy was giving me a second wind. Adrenaline, risk, new sensations. All this intoxicated and allowed me to forget about the illness, at least for a while. I felt as if I had cheated fate. We felt no remorse. After all, who were we hurting besides ourselves? It was our own little world, full of pleasure and passion. The reality outside it ceased to matter. Dorothy was blossoming before our eyes. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled with a playful gleam. She said that I helped her feel desirable and young again. For me, she was a breath of fresh air, a life-giving elixir on the eve of the inevitable end. But somewhere deep inside I understood. This could not go on for long. One day our idyll would be shattered by a careless glance, a casual phrase, an unattended correspondence. And then the storm would break out. Amazingly, the double life was good for me. Now I cherished every moment spent with Sophia and the children. I tried to be an attentive husband and a caring father, compensating for the secret betrayal. My wife and I began to go out more often, have family dinners. I showered Sophia with gifts, spoke of love. For a while, a spark of former passion flared up in our relationship. "I don't know what's come over you lately, but I like it," Sophia whispered, snuggling up to me in bed. "You've become so attentive, tender, just like at the beginning of our romance." I kissed her, feeling a pang of guilt. If only she knew at what cost these changes came. But it was a joy to see a happy smile on my wife's face. Dorothy and I also portrayed the perfect mother-in-law and son-in-law relationship in public. We smiled, joked, maintained social conversations. It never occurred to anyone that we were connected by something more. For a while, it seemed that everything was going as well as it could. My mistress secretly quenched my thirst for passion and novelty, while my wife bathed in care and adoration. I had time for everything, juggling work, hospital, and personal life. Even Richard, Dorothy's husband, was blissfully unaware. He was happy about his wife's good mood, not realizing the true reasons for her flourishing. Everyone was happy. Dorothy was glowing. I felt invulnerable and all-powerful, and Sophia basked in my attention. It seemed that nothing boded trouble. But the idyll could not last forever. Sometimes, in moments of silence, I would catch strange looks from Sophia. It was as if she sensed something was wrong, but couldn't understand what it was. And at night I was tortured by insomnia and nightmares of exposure. How long could one balance on the edge? Sooner or later the truth would come out, and then my cozy double life would be shattered. Despite the pleasure that the relationship with Dorothy brought, the moral dilemma gnawed more and more. At night I tossed and turned sleeplessly for hours, staring at the dark ceiling. Reason said that it was necessary to end the vicious connection before it was too late. Do I have the right to cause pain to the closest people? Does Sophia deserve such a betrayal? But as soon as I imagined breaking up with Dorothy, my heart would clench with longing. There was so much life, fire, madness in our meetings. To give it up seemed unthinkable. During the day at work or with my family, I drove away anxious thoughts. I smiled, joked, made plans for a future I didn't have. I caught Sophia's worried looks and pusillanimously averted my eyes. And then, everything would return to normal. Another date with Dorothy, in snatches, in a motel or car, as if in some parallel world. We made love with the greed of the doomed, as if for the last time, and for a brief moment, I felt alive again. But the fear of exposure grew. What if one day Sophia follows me, starts asking questions I can't answer? My heart would stop at the thought. Sometimes it seemed to me that my wife had already guessed everything. Her sad eyes seemed to see right through me. A couple of times she casually asked where I was disappearing late. I had to lie, getting confused in my testimony. And recently, I accidentally discovered articles about cheating and how to recognize it in the browser history. Could it be that Sophia is on the trail of my betrayal? This thought made me break out in a cold sweat. It was time to end this farce. But how? Break off relations with Dorothy in one fell swoop. Gradually distance myself, pretending that I just cooled down. In any case, pain could not be avoided. What will I tell my wife? Will I be able to convince her of my fidelity after all I've done? Will I be able to beg for forgiveness? I realized that I could not get away from the double life so easily. My thoughts were confused. The solution eluded me. On the one hand, there was a duty to the family and the fear of losing the most precious thing. On the other hand, there was a mad attraction to Dorothy and an unwillingness to give up the last sip of happiness before death. I was torn between two fires, not knowing what to do. Meanwhile, the noose around my neck was getting tighter. It was urgent to decide something before the thunder struck. The denouement came suddenly. One evening, returning from work, I found Sophia sitting on the couch with a stony face. In her hands, she was clutching my phone. "You've been sleeping with my mother all this time, haven't you?" Sophia asked quietly. There was steel in her voice. My legs gave way. My tongue stuck to my throat. My ears rang. How did she find out? Did she read the correspondence? See the photos? I can explain everything," I muttered, feeling the blood drain from my face. "Explain? That you're sleeping with Dorothy behind my back?" Sophia broke into a scream, throwing the phone to the floor. "How could you? My husband and my mother!" Tears streamed down her cheeks, but she didn't even try to brush them away. Pain and rage seethed in her eyes. My heart was torn with shame. "Forgive me," I tried to take her hand. "It's all because of the illness. I just wanted to experience something bright, crazy, for the last time. I'm going to die soon." Sophia pulled her hand away as if she had been burned. "And that's why you had to betray me. Wouldn't I have given you that? Love, passion, madness. My God, I would have sold my soul just to make you happy in your last months." Each of her words hit me in the gut. How could I have been so blind, chasing after easy prey, not seeing the real treasure beside me? "Sophia, I beg you, don't leave me. Give me a chance to fix everything. I swear it's over between me and Dorothy." "It's too late, Matthew." My wife shook her head. "I won't be able to forget this pain, and I will never be able to trust you or my mother again. You both betrayed me." At that moment, I felt like the last scum. How could I destroy the brightest thing in my life? Was a moment of passion worth family happiness? "I'm filing for divorce," Sophia said in a muffled voice, rising from the couch. "And don't you dare mention your illness again. It's not an excuse, but only a sign of your selfish nature." I watched in shock as the bedroom door slammed behind her. My chest tightened with belated remorse. What have I done? Is this the end? With trembling hands, I dialed Dorothy's number. Beeps, click, voicemail. "Dorothy, it's Matthew. Sophia knows everything. I'm sorry, but we have to stop communicating forever. I hope you understand." Dropping the phone, I collapsed on the couch, exhausted. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but I didn't care. I had lost the most precious thing, Sophia's love and trust. And no one was to blame for this but myself. What will happen now? Will we be able to settle everything amicably? Will the children stay with me or with Sophia? How will my last months go? Questions swarmed in my head, but there were no answers. I felt that hard times were coming. It was necessary to grow up, admit mistakes, and try to atone for my guilt. Glancing at the clock, I realized with bitterness, There was less than a day left before the meeting with the lawyer. It was time to collect my thoughts and prepare for the worst. After all, I dug this hole for myself. It only remained to hope that before my death I would have time to at least partially correct what I had done. Beg Sophia for forgiveness. Explain myself to the children. To leaving a bright memory of myself. But something told me it wouldn't be that easy. And ahead of me were difficult trials that I had brought down on my own head. Such was the bitter lesson taught by fate at the end of my days. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.